Ever feel like the best games are the ones nobody's talking about? Yeah, same here. So today, we're diving into top 20 underrated games you shouldn't miss. Because trust me, some of these titles are way too good to be collecting dust, while everyone's replaying the same old blockbusters. Ever wish you could just blast your way through a neon-soaked city where everything's falling apart and nobody's coming to save you? The Ascent throws you into that kind of chaos. A brutal top-down action RPG, where you're stuck at the bottom of a massive corporate-controlled arcology, and the whole system suddenly goes off the rails. The combat feels tight and punchy, with tons of crazy weapons and slick upgrades that make every firefight feel like controlled mayhem. One minute you're dodging turret fire, the next you're leveling up your cyber gear to hit even harder. What really pulls you in, though, is the atmosphere. Gritty back alleys, towering structures lit by flickering signs, and crowds of people going about their business like everything isn't about to explode. Whether you're playing solo or tagging in a co-op buddy, there's a real sense of tension and momentum as you fight your way through each district. It's not just about surviving, so it's about carving your own path through a world that couldn't care less if you make it out. Ever wanted to pilot a starfighter that actually feels alive, like it's part machine, part mystery, and somehow totally in sync with you? Chorus takes that fantasy and runs wild with it, tossing you into deep space where you're not just fighting off enemies, you're flying through ancient temples, shattered planets, and cosmic ruins that look straight out of a dream. The controls are buttery smooth, the ship moves like it's reading your mind, and the combat is this perfect blend of speed, precision, and chaos. What really grabbed me, though, was the vibe. Dark, haunting, but weirdly beautiful, like you're exploring a galaxy haunted by its past. There's this constant feeling of motion, of pushing forward through the unknown, with a ship that isn't just a tool, but a character of its own. And if you're into space shooters that give you freedom to fly wild while telling a story that's more emotional than you'd expect, Chorus is absolutely worth jumping into.
No circle reinforcements yet, but they can't be far away.
There are life signs on board.
Civilian ship, head to this rendezvous point. I'll lead you to safety.
You ever play a game that feels more like floating through a dream than just ticking off objectives? Deliver Us the Moon hits that vibe in the best way. It's not about action-packed shootouts or grinding levels, it's about atmosphere, quiet tension, and the kind of mystery that pulls you in without shouting. You play as this lone astronaut sent to the moon after Earth's energy supply cuts out. And everything just feels so isolated, so still, like you're really out there, completely on your own. The cool part is how it shifts between first and third person, depending on what you're doing, keeping things fresh while exploring old space stations, solving puzzles, and slowly piecing together what went wrong. There's no combat, no distractions, just you, a dead moon base, and a whole lot of eerie silence. The way it blends minimal music, subtle storytelling, and immersive visuals makes it feel more like a playable sci-fi short film than a traditional game, and honestly, that's what makes it so memorable. Ever miss the days when shooters were all about non-stop action, chunky explosions, and blasting through waves of enemies without a care in the world? Hard Reset Redux totally scratches that old-school itch, but with a slick sci-fi twist that makes it feel fresh even now. It throws you into this neon-drenched, robot-infested city that's falling apart in the coolest way. Everything's sparking, glowing, and just begging to be blown up. The gunplay is loud and satisfying with this crazy weapon system that lets you swap between different firing modes on the fly, like you're carrying a whole arsenal in one arm. And the pacing? It doesn't mess around. You're constantly moving, dodging, blasting, with barely a second to catch your breath, but in the best way possible. If you love games that are all about pure chaos, high energy, and that arcade-style rhythm where the only goal is to shoot everything that moves, this one delivers hard. No pun intended. Ever wondered what it'd feel like to explore a haunted space station where every corridor feels like it's hiding something waiting to wreck your day? Hellpoint is that kind of ride. Dark, strange, and seriously rewarding if you're into gritty, punishing sci-fi with a creepy edge. You're thrown into this derelict world orbiting a black hole, and the whole place feels alive in a twisted, unsettling way. Enemies creep out of the shadows, the environment keeps changing, and nothing ever feels safe. The combat hits hard and demands patience, kind of like a cosmic dance with timing and guts. And the more you dive in, the more you start unlocking wild weapons and cryptic lore that pulls you deeper. There's this eerie mystery behind everything, and it gives off major figure-it-out-on-your-own energy, which makes every discovery feel earned. If you're up for a challenge wrapped in a dark sci-fi atmosphere that constantly messes with your head, this one's totally worth getting lost in. You ever play a game that makes you feel like you're pulling off stunts straight out of an action movie, wall running, diving through windows, kicking weapons out of enemies' hands, and never slowing down for even a second? Severed Steel is exactly that kind of adrenaline rush, where the combat flows like a wild dance, and every level pushes you to get creative with movement and gunplay. You play as a one-armed protagonist with no reload button, which sounds wild at first, but it forces you to improvise and always stay in motion. Diving, sliding, flipping through chaos while chaining headshots and takedowns like it's second nature. The whole world has this slick, neon-drenched look that just pops, and when you line up those slow-motion kills, it feels ridiculously satisfying. It's not about playing it safe, it's about going full tilt, trusting your reflexes, and turning every fight into a stylish spectacle. And if you're into fast-paced shooters that reward bold moves and pure momentum, this one's an absolute blast. You ever sit down thinking you're just going to solve a few puzzles, and suddenly you're questioning the nature of consciousness itself? That's the kind of trip the Turing Test takes you on. It starts out feeling like a clean sci-fi puzzle game set on one of Jupiter's moons. But as you dive deeper, it gets way more psychological than you'd expect. You play as this engineer named Ava, exploring these sterile, quiet corridors filled with clever brain teasers that rely on logic, power manipulation, and this really cool energy transfer tool that lets you control machines and open pathways. But what really hooked me wasn't just the puzzles. It was the way the story slowly starts peeling back layers about AI, human decision-making, and what it really means to think. The pacing is super chill, the atmosphere is eerie but calming, and it keeps that perfect balance of challenge and curiosity. If you're into games that don't just test your reflexes, but actually make you think, like really think, this one's a hidden gem you shouldn't sleep on. Ever wish you could slice through enemies like a cyber ninja while wall running across glowing skyscrapers in a post-apocalyptic city drenched in neon? Ghostrunner takes that exact fantasy and cranks it up to 11. It's like if parkour and a katana had a baby and dropped it straight into a dystopian future. The gameplay is ridiculously fast and brutally precise, like blink and you're dead fast, But once it clicks, you feel like a complete badass chaining wall runs, grapples, and slow-mo dodges into these perfect runs that are just insanely satisfying. Every encounter is basically a deadly little puzzle where one mistake means starting over. But that quick respawn makes it addictive instead of frustrating. The whole vibe of the world, this broken high-tech tower crawling with threats, gives it this gritty cyberpunk energy that just pulls you in, and the soundtrack? Pure adrenaline. It's one of those games where the more you play, the more you unlock this flow state. And you're not just reacting, you're predicting, dancing through danger like it's second nature. If you're up for a challenge that rewards precision and style, this one's gonna keep your pulse pounding from start to finish.
Dome on lockdown.
Each guard has a built-in lockdown chip. Disabling them will unlock the doors.
You ever play a game that messes with your head in the best possible way? Observation does exactly that, but here's the twist. You're not the astronaut, you're the AI. Watching everything unfold through security cams, system readouts, and weird glitches that start making you question what's real. It's got this eerie, slow burn tension that creeps in while you're unlocking doors, rebooting systems, and trying to figure out what the hell happened on this abandoned space station. There's this constant feeling like something's off, like you're being watched, even though technically you're the one doing the watching. The game nails that feeling of isolation in space, quiet, cold, and unsettling, and it uses that to build a story that's not just sci-fi, it's psychological. Every system you interact with feels tactile and real, and piecing together the mystery is so satisfying because nothing's handed to you. You have to dig, scan, and think like a machine, but react like a human, which creates this super unique blend of tension and discovery. If you like games that don't just entertain you, but straight up make you feel like part of the story, this one's a trip worth taking. Just don't be surprised if it lingers in your mind long after the credits roll.
Any other integrated systems and equipment?
Ever wanted to dive headfirst into a brutal cyberpunk world where the only rule is to move fast and hit harder? Ruiner drops you straight into that chaos, and let me tell you, it's an absolute adrenaline rush from the first second. You're this masked, silent dude tearing through neon-soaked streets with a mix of crazy speed and over-the-top violence, and every move you make feels razor-sharp. The combat's tight and responsive. Like you blink, and you've already dashed through 3 enemies and blasted a 4th with a charged-up energy shot. The game throws you into these slick, futuristic environments that are dripping with atmosphere and the soundtrack. It slaps hard, pulsing right in sync with every explosion and slow-mo takedown. What really hooks you, though, is how it all comes together. The gritty story, the mystery behind your character, and the absolute satisfaction of chaining kills together like some kind of cyber ninja on a revenge trip. It's not just style over substance. This game plays as good as it looks, and if you're into fast-paced action with a moody sci-fi edge, this one's a wild ride you don't want to miss. You know that feeling when you're just vibing with a game, not stressing, not rushing, just letting the experience wash over you? Exo One is exactly that kind of trip. You're not blasting enemies or chasing high scores. Instead, you're piloting this alien-looking craft across surreal planets that feel like they're ripped straight from a dream. And it's all about momentum, gravity, and just gliding with the flow. You drop into these vast alien landscapes with rolling hills, massive clouds, even floating islands. And the way your ship picks up speed downhill and soars into the sky feels unbelievably smooth, like you're surfing the air itself. It's not about how fast you go, but how beautifully you can carve your own path through these otherworldly places. And honestly, there's something super relaxing about that, especially with the ambient soundtrack humming in the background and the visual style that makes everything feel peaceful but a little eerie, like you're exploring the edge of the universe alone. It's short, yeah, but it's the kind of game you sit back with when you want to feel weightless and lost in thought. A chill little escape that quietly sticks with you. Ever play a strategy game that actually makes you feel like you're leading a brotherhood, not just micromanaging units? The Valiant hits different like that. It drops you into this gritty medieval world where you're not just commanding armies, you're guiding a band of warriors through a brutal personal quest that actually matters. It's got that sweet mix of tactical combat and small squad focus, so every skirmish feels intense without turning into a numbers game. You're constantly choosing your approach. Do you hold the line, flank around, or go full assault? And the cool part is, you get to level up your squad, unlock new abilities, and build them out the way you want. And man, the vibe of it all, dark castles, rain-soaked battlefields, and this heavy, desperate tone that makes each mission feel like you're barely scraping through, it just pulls you in. The pacing keeps it fresh too, never dragging. And when those big set-piece battles hit, it's all adrenaline and timing. It's not your typical massive-scale RTS. It's more intimate, more grounded, and way more about skill than spam, which honestly makes it a must-play if you're into strategy games with some actual heart and grit behind the sword swinging.
Onward! Forging ahead! Fight with the strength of God!
Ever just feel like blasting through hordes of chaos with a giant gun in one hand and psychic fury in the other? Warhammer $40,000. Inquisitor. Martyr is the kind of game that scratches that power fantasy itch while dropping you into the grimiest corners of a universe that's all about dark tech, gothic vibes, and endless war. You play as this unstoppable Inquisitor, basically part detective, part executioner, and you're thrown into this massive web of heresy, cults, and corruption, where every mission is just packed with enemies, explosions, and that satisfying crunch of impact-heavy combat. It's like an action RPG where you're constantly customizing your build, tweaking your gear, and unlocking new powers to turn you into an even more absurd powerhouse. And the environments? They're drenched in mood, from derelict space hulks to creepy cathedrals orbiting dead planets. It all feels huge and haunted in the best way. What really makes it fun, though, is that it doesn't hold your hand. You've got to think tactically, swap between weapons on the fly, and decide when to play aggressive or fall back and rethink your approach. Whether you're soloing it or teaming up with a buddy, it's just pure grimdark chaos with depth under the hood. And if you're even a little into the Warhammer universe, this one's a ride you don't want to miss. You ever play a game that looks retro on the outside, but feels way deeper than you expected? That's CrossCode for me. This insanely well-crafted action RPG that somehow nails fast-paced combat, clever puzzles, and a surprisingly emotional story, all wrapped in pixel art that just pops. You're dropped into this futuristic MMO world as a silent protagonist with a mysterious past, and what starts off feeling like a fun little sci-fi adventure quickly turns into this super engaging experience with layers of lore and character development that really hook you in. The combat's where it shines. It's fast, smooth, and full of momentum, like dashing between enemies, charging up elemental attacks, and timing your dodges just right to feel like a total beast. But then it throws these intricate, puzzle-filled dungeons at you, and honestly, some of them had me staring at the screen for way longer than I want to admit. But in the best kind of way. It's one of those games where every area feels handcrafted. Every enemy encounter pushes you to think, and the whole vibe, from the music to the world building, makes it feel way bigger than it has any right to. If you love games that balance gameplay challenge with meaningful story beats, CrossCode is one of those rare gems that deserves way more love. Ever dive into a game that feels like someone dumped a bucket of supernatural chaos all over the Wild West and said, yeah, let's roll with it? That's exactly what Weird West delivers. It's this gritty, dark reimagining of frontier life, where bounty hunters cross paths with pigmen, witches haunt the plains, and every decision you make actually matters in the weirdest ways possible. It plays like a top-down immersive sim, where you've got full freedom to approach situations however you want. Sneak through a camp with traps and silenced weapons, or go in guns blazing with dynamite in both hands, and the game reacts to it all in some wild, unexpected ways. The cool part? You're not just playing one character, but the story shifts between different heroes, each with their own creepy backstories and playstyles. But the world remembers everything you've done, so choices from one journey totally shape the next. It's got this moody, atmospheric vibe that pulls you in, and even though it's got that old-school isometric look, the gameplay feels anything but old-fashioned. It's tight, responsive, and full of those "oh no, what have I done" moments that make you want to replay it just to see what else can go sideways. If you're into games that let you write your own chaos and crave a setting that's as twisted as it is intriguing, Weird West is absolutely worth the ride. You ever stumble into a game thinking it's just another ancient ruins adventure, and then boom, you're stuck in a Roman city where breaking a moral code literally turns everyone to gold? The Forgotten City is one of those rare games that messes with your head in the best way possible. It's part time loop mystery, part philosophical mind trip, and somehow still feels chill to play. You're dropped into this hidden underground world where the rules are strict, the characters are deep, and every little thing you say or do has weight. But instead of overwhelming you, it pulls you in with clever dialogue, smart puzzles, and a story that genuinely makes you think. It doesn't throw action at you non-stop. It's more about choices, consequences, and slowly untangling the web of secrets people are keeping, all while trying not to trigger the terrifying golden rule that punishes everyone for a single misdeed. The cool part? You can tackle things in different ways, use logic, charm, stealth, even brute force if you want. But the way it all loops back and fits together is just so satisfying. And despite how intense it can get, it still feels laid back and immersive, like you're just exploring, thinking, and solving at your own pace. If you're into games that respect your brain, reward curiosity, and leave you thinking about the ending long after the credits roll, this one's seriously worth diving into.
Shall be rewarded with eternal life in paradise. The wicked shall find themselves showered in gold, but in vain, for this shall be their final resting place. Could an underground city have remained a secret for all this time?
Ever wonder what it'd feel like to be completely alone on a freaky alien planet, armed with nothing but your gear, reflexes, and stubborn will to survive? That's the vibe Dolmen throws at you, and honestly, it's kind of awesome. You land on this dark, hostile world where everything feels off, twisted creatures, weird energy sources, and an eerie sci-fi atmosphere that constantly keeps you on edge. The combat is where it really shines, super weighty, super deliberate, kind of like a Souls-like, but with its own twist thanks to this whole energy management system that lets you switch between melee and ranged attacks on the fly. You're not just hacking and slashing, you're constantly watching your stamina, charging up energy, timing everything just right, and when it clicks, it feels ridiculously good. Exploration is intense two-tight corridors, creepy alien tech everywhere, and bosses that make you step back, learn their patterns, and really fight smart. It's not about holding your hand or feeding you easy wins. It makes you earn every step, and that's part of what makes it so satisfying. If you're into sci-fi, love tough-as-nails combat, and don't mind a game that's a little rough around the edges but full of personality, Dolmen's definitely one to check out. Ever get the itch for a shooter that just lets you go wild, no holding back, no overcomplicated nonsense, just pure chaotic, fast-paced mayhem? That's exactly what Necromunda Hired Gun throws at you, and wow, it's a ride. You're dropped into this gritty industrial wasteland packed with scumbags, cyber-enhanced lunatics, and a whole bunch of neon-lit madness, and your job? Hunt. Get paid. Move on. The movement feels insane. You're wall running, grappling across rooftops, sliding into firefights, and ripping through enemies with a crazy arsenal of customizable weapons that never stop being satisfying. The game doesn't mess around. It wants you moving fast, thinking faster, and always looking for the next big threat around the corner. And having a cyberdog that tears people apart on command, yeah, that's the cherry on top. It's not trying to be some super polished blockbuster, and that's what I love. It's raw, it's intense, and when it clicks, it feels like you're flying through the most metal action movie ever. If you want a break from slow burn shooters and just want to let loose in a wild, unfiltered world, this is absolutely worth jumping into. Ever dive into a game and feel like you've just been dropped into someone's dream after a sci-fi movie marathon? That's the vibe beautiful Desolation hits you with right away. This isn't your usual post-apocalyptic setup. It's like stepping into a surreal, handcrafted alien Earth filled with bizarre technology, strange tribes, and an atmosphere that constantly has you leaning in, just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. It's an isometric adventure with a strong point-and-click soul where exploration and storytelling take center stage, and every weird device or offbeat character you come across pulls you deeper into this beautifully twisted world. You're not running around with guns blazing. Instead, it's about soaking in the world, solving puzzles that actually make you think, and having these super interesting conversations that reveal just how deep the lore goes. And visually, it's stunning in that retro-futuristic, dreamlike way. Every environment feels like a painting from a world that shouldn't exist, but somehow totally makes sense the more you explore it. It's slow burn in the best way possible, perfect for when you're craving a break from all the noise and just want to lose yourself in a wild, original world that's as thought-provoking as it is strange.
In the midst of our tribulation.
Ever play a game that grabs your attention not with big explosions or crazy powers, but with quiet tension, powerful emotion, and a setting so rich you can almost smell the damp stone streets? That's what A Plague Tale, Innocence, brings to the table. This slow-burning, story-driven stealth adventure takes you straight into a grim, plague-ridden version of medieval France, where you play as Amicia, a teenage girl trying to protect her little brother Hugo while everything around them is falling apart. What really blew me away is how grounded and human the experience feels. You're sneaking through villages crawling with hostile soldiers, outsmarting swarms of rats that move like something out of a nightmare, and using simple tools like fire and distraction to get by, which makes every encounter feel tense and creative. The bond between the siblings pulls you in hard, and the pacing keeps you hooked as the mystery unfolds, mixing historical grit with just a touch of dark fantasy. Visually, it's haunting, not flashy, but beautiful in that moody, atmospheric way that sticks with you. If you're into games that focus on storytelling, tight stealth mechanics, and emotional weight without the usual action overload, this one is an absolute must.
No, Amicia. We have to keep going.
Speak up! Don't make me hurt you again. Be careful, goddammit!
The ground is shaking. Amicia, the ground is shaking.
Don't stop! They're right behind us! Straight on! Harry, straight on!
But where are we going?
Climb up. I'll help you.
All right, that's a wrap on this list of top 20 underrated games you shouldn't miss. Hopefully you found a few hidden gems to add to your backlog, or maybe even bumped an old one back to the top of your playlist. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments. Did I miss a favorite of yours, or throw something new on your radar? Either way, if you had a good time hanging out, maybe drop a like or hit that sub button if you feel like sticking around for more. No pressure though, it just helps me know you're enjoying the ride. Thanks for kicking back with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Game on.